Welcome everyone to the Nerd Nook. I'm your host Evan Teague, and with me, like always, is Noah Bailey. So this week we have something very special for you. Today we will be fixing the Star Wars prequels, starting with Episode One, because those movies have a lot of problems. So someone needs to fix them. Might as well be us. And Noah,
Right?
it actually wasn't that hard to fix them. All you had to do was
Really?
just change everything. You have a better movie.
Shit. Take everything out, put more different movie in, and it's fine. Perfect. Just close your eyes a little bit and just kind of like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, just keep the few things that actually worked, fix everything else, and boom, you got it. You did it. uh, but seriously though, this is actually like a lot of fun to do. So I just hope you know, I hope I actually constructed a coherent movie. Like, I'm not a screenwriter or anything, so I'm just a fan who wants a better movie. So, just from that perspective, I hope I did a good job. And if you have any criticisms or interjections you want to spout, go for any time. I'm open to them. So, without further ado, let's see if I can get into this. Okay, are you ready to have your mind blown?
Let's do it.
Hopefully. Okay, so fixing the Star Wars prequels, Episode 1. Things to remove. So, obviously, there are quite a number of things that just need to be removed from this prequel trilogy entirely. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with them because there's not a lot I need to say. I'm just going to talk about them real quick. Midichlorians, those little microscopic organisms that live in your body that nope, stop,
Oh, goodness.
kill it with fire. I'm not even going to finish that sentence, just stop.
Supply.
Literally, I have never in my life, just during a sentence of any movie, I have never ever gotten more enraged with every single word. I watched episode one a few days ago, and literally, I knew it was coming too. And literally, every single word Qui Gon said during while he was explaining what midichlorians are, I just got more and more just angry at what he was saying. There's no
Oh, my
need to have
goodness.
midichlorians. There's no need to explain what the Force is. Just
Mm-mm.
wizards in space was enough. Like, I don't understand why George Lucas felt he needed to explain that, but he did, and it was one of the worst things ever. So, yeah, kill it with fire. And what's even worse is that they were never even really brought up again after episode one. It's almost like he realized, hey, this was a bad idea.
Stupid. And just hope no one remembers.
Well, we remembered. We remembered. We
No,
also
we
remembered
don't forget.
this. Hang on, this guy, Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, saw
Now,
that coming.
okay, Darth Jar Jar aside, that would have actually, been a somewhat decent redemption story. But since that didn't happen, no, stop. Just you don't need him. I'm not gonna kill him with. I don't want to kill him with fire because, like,
What?
the
No!
idea of this
Kill it with
character.
fire. Kill it
the,
with fire.
the idea of this
No.
character, being a goofball in the first movie, and then actually, being like one of the most evil characters in Star Wars history, is a decent idea. You just in the story that I am creating, you don't need him or really any Gungans. Period. So, with the idea that him becoming a Sith Lord, that's or already being a Sith Lord, that's a fine idea. So in this theoretical world, I don't want him to not exist because of that, but because he didn't do that, you don't need him. So hope I explain myself well. Yeah. So
Uh,
I'll continue.
Kill it.
Tatooine. Tatooine does not need to be in this movie. First of all, why would Obi-Wan knowingly hide Luke Skywalker on Anakin Skywalker's home planet? That I can just stop right there. I know that Darth Vader didn't necessarily know that he had kids, but if he had any knowledge of a Skywalker on Tatooine, especially since Obi-Wan left him with Uncle Owen, who Anakin actually met. So he Darth Vader knows that he has family on Tatooine. You think that would be the first place he would check. So don't have Tatooine in this movie. You don't need it. You can have Uncle Owen take Luke there at the end of episode 3. That I'd be fine with that. But as far as where Anakin actually comes from, just don't do it. Just
Yeah.
don't.
And like I know some of the arguments are like, oh, but like Anakin hates that place, so he'd never go back to it. But I'm like, well, what if that logic, he'd probably blow it up too. So that doesn't really
Yeah.
help either.
That would have been the first planet he blew up with the Death Star if that were the
Probably. I
case.
mean, if it was up to him, he probably would have been like, yeah, let's just burn that one. Just
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah.
Blow it up.
I mean, I don't think Grand Moff Tarkin would have needed an explanation. I'm sure he would have been like, okay, sure, why not?
Okay, it's like, go for it.
uh, okay. So next, Yoda. It's really upsetting when I'm not sure which one of these two picture they hate more. Like this puppet Yoda, it had the same general mannerisms of the original Episode 5 Yoda, but just the way it's designed, it just doesn't. It looks way too puppety. It doesn't really look like a creature
Yeah.
that could exist outside of that chair. It just looks like a puppet. Then you have that CG monstrosity to his right.
I mean,
just just compare the eyes. This is the scene where he's saying fears the path of the dark side.
right.
Yoda, he's a quirky, wise old man creature thing. Yoda, I guess this is his creature name. And like while he's saying it, the puppet at least is being very energetic, being very like animated. Whereas this Yoda just looks bored through the whole thing. There's no emotion at all while he's saying it. If the
True.
CG was done better, I would actually wouldn't mind a CG Yoda. But and but just the way we got it, I'm not a fan. So either way, if you want to do CG or puppet, either way, make it look like this guy. Just try your hardest to make it look and act like him.
Yeah. And like I feel like CG Yoda wasn't like you said, it wasn't a mistake. I just think they went about it the entirely wrong way. It didn't resemble the original in any way. It was almost like if it wasn't a little green man, it would be unrecognizable. So like
Also, I'm not sure exactly why, but for some reason, Frank Oz, who is probably one of the most talented people alive today, just didn't do a good job playing Yoda in episode 1 and for the entire trilogy, really. Like, maybe George Lucas just doesn't really know how to direct people, but then again, you would think that Frank Oz wouldn't really need directing for a character like this, especially for
uh,
a character he perfected back in 1980.
right.
But just like I said, his mannerisms, just the way he said things, I just don't know how that was so messed up, but it was, and the character outside of being green and small, he was almost unrecognizable. So do your best to make the character look and feel like this guy. That's all I'm gonna say. So last off, just George Lucas has a really bad habit in episode 1 of having unnecessary racial stereotypes. So we got Jewish racial stereotypes, Jamaican racial stereotypes, and whatever he is, Asian maybe, I don't know. I'm just
I
I feel offended for someone because he exists. You
Yeah, I
know?
always got a bit of a like a Asian, like Middle Eastern kind of vibe from
Yeah.
what are they what is that pneumonia? What is that right? Pneumonia, is that right? Or
No,
is it like
uh,
something like
I couldn't
that?
remember. I don't know.
But I mean, but yeah, I get what you're saying. It's they're kind of the designs are a little, hey.
Especially the Jewish one. Like that is it's not just how he looks, how he acts, just how he speaks. Like that is clearly a stereotype that just doesn't need to be
Yeah.
there. So, and also these are all aliens. So why do they have human characteristics anyway? That just doesn't compete with me personally. But
Yeah, Star
whatever.
Wars logic.
There were none. There weren't really any racial stereotypes in episode 4, 5, or 6.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he's trying to make them relatable, but they're
By
aliens. And I
relatable
don't.
by just taking
Yeah.
literally the bare minimum you can to make one
Yes.
racial stereotype. Like,
I guess I don't really know what Lucas is. His goals are a little hard to describe.
yeah.
Understand.
Oh well. Well, luckily in this version, more or less, Lucas doesn't really have anything involved with it. So, um, next up, things to keep. Now there actually were some choices here and there in the prequels that I wouldn't actually mind keeping for episode 1. Starting with the Jedi
Okay.
Council.
Yeah.
I think the Jedi Council was actually a really smart world building idea. They've been around, for thousands of years. They train young Jedi. They go out and find them so they won't be seduced to the dark side. It makes perfect sense. Um, she'll have the Jedi Council be about 8 to 12 members. And one thing that I feel we should emphasize is have all of them have at least one line. Look at all these unique, interesting characters. That one with the long neck, that guy with the 2 hearts, even Plo Koon is a pretty cool design.
Mm.
And yet, I think Yoda, Mace Windu, and I can never remember the guy with 2 hearts or 2 brains, whatever. I can't remember his
The
name.
Keating Monday right there.
The guy like kind of right
Yeah.
next to Yoda. What's his name?
Yeah. Keating Monday. Yeah. Keating Monday. It's like Keating Monday, something like that.
Okay,
It's like,
okay.
yeah. It's some weird alien. It's yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Only these three had lines at all, and even then, Kido Monday just didn't really say anything that anyone else could really say. So I feel in order for it to feel like a living, breathing, world, in order for it to feel like
Mm.
these characters actually, have all actually been established, have them all have personality, have them all actually have a speaking line. Of course, have Mace Windu and
Yeah.
Yoda be like the chairman, be the main ones who make decisions, but still have at least the majority of them speak at least once. Also, don't have another
Yeah.
Yoda. Like this female Yoda here.
Yeah.
Just that's no. Not
Yeah, it
take
was
like
very unnecessary. And it kind of ruins the kind of the like the mystique of Yoda too, because it's like Yoda, you just thought was this like super old, like that like it's like so old, no one really knows what he is. It kind of ruins it when there's
hmm
two of them.
yeah. Also, I think Yoda is just a Yoda. So what is
Yeah.
she Yodette? Are we doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think her actual name's like Yaddle, so like some, I
Okay.
basically, I think
Okay.
that's what he's going. That's what this was going for. So I think
Whatever.
that was a little unnecessary. But yeah, I
Yeah.
like what you were saying, how like everyone in the council should have part, because like any like boardroom or like meeting of people or whatever,
hmm
every person's there for a reason.
Yeah.
So like you shouldn't just be there to be a body. Like everyone, their opinions matter in this congregation. So it's like you want to see them making decisions together, voting on stuff, like stuff like that.
Yeah. So one one other aspect of the Jedi Council, I feel they should still be active in the field. Even though in my personal story, you're more or less following Yoda and Obi-Wan around while they're actually, out in the field. Yoda is still a lead member of the council. Everyone on here, even during this time of peace, they're still out there doing things, being keepers of the peace. I don't really like the idea of, at least from what we can tell, everyone in this room, their sole purpose during this time period is just to be in this room the entire time. I like the
Right.
idea of them actually being out there, finding new Padawans, finding young Jedi, helping people. Well, they're not really doing that here, which maybe that
Yeah.
kind of falls into the whole, the Jedi Council is corrupt and whatnot. But I feel like there are other ways you can express that while actually making them cool and useful.
Yeah, and I thought it was cool how like in like Revenge of the Sith and also in like the Clone Wars show,
Mm-hmm.
it's like sometimes when they have meetings, the council, like not all of them would actually be there. They'd be
Yeah.
like projections because, I'm in the middle of a battle. I can't, fly back
Mm-hmm.
to Coruscant. I have to, stay here on wherever I am.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Oh yeah, I did really like those scenes, but also kind of have that at least idea present
Right.
during this time of peace. And lastly, explain their connection to the Senate. Like, one of my major complaints with episode 1, 2, and 3 is that there is clearly some kind of really corrupt connection between the Jedi Council and the Senate. There is some reason why the Jedi can't do certain things, or the reason, or like, there are also sometimes that the Senate can't control them in certain aspects, but there's never really an explanation as to why. Like in episode 1, um, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are sent to the Trade Federation as negotiators, but why were they sent? And why was the Trade Federation not told beforehand that Jedi were coming? Why were they the negotiators? I like why like was there no one else? Was there no ambassadors available? Were they sent there to kill them, and like maybe even the Jedi didn't realize that, or just have that be a little less ambiguous, I guess, if you
Yeah.
get what I'm saying.
I feel like it would have been a lot better if like Jedi were like escorts for like, like maybe they sent an ambassador and the Jedi like to
Yeah,
make sure, anything didn't that would have made a lot more sense.
yeah, like that sequence that happened in episode 1 isn't going to happen in my personal story, which I'll get to later. But if I were to rewrite that scene, have the ambassador or ambassadors sent by the Senate be escorted by Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and then during that sequence, the ambassadors were killed, making it, making it have a reason why the Jedi would want to go after the Trade Federation and vice versa. The way we
Exactly.
got it is just Jedi are here. Oh no, we should kill them. Why? They're ambassadors.
It's like what I
Like,
do.
were you not told beforehand Jedi were coming? Were It was never told to us that the Jedi were there to kill them. But and if they were, Jedi just kill people like that. I don't know. That just nothing
Kind of
about
messed
this
up.
works. Yeah, I don't know. So just explain that a little better. Speaking of the Senate, another actually
Mhm.
really cool idea, having, and I really just like this image of like all these senators from across the galaxy in this giant, super dome area.
Mhm.
Have every planet in the galaxy represented, and just kind of show how the Senate operates during this time of peace. One thing that kind of bugged me about episode 1 was that it was kind of hinting like the Trade Federation, they were technically represented in the Senate, but they also had control over other planets. They had a straight up military in the droids. We'll get to the droids in a later segment. But that just kind of made me think, why isn't the Senate doing anything about this? Do they even have a military that they could stop this? Because theoretically, let's just take the US for instance. If Oklahoma tried to sanction Texas or whatever, I probably should have put that backwards, but still, uh, the U.S. would do something about that. So you're
Right.
telling me that in this galactic Senate, where senators from every single planet in the galaxy, there's no military to counteract this trade federation, and they allowed it to build an army of droids. That just doesn't make sense to me. So I guess explain that specifically. Also explain exactly how they're dealing with their people in the galaxy during the time of peace, because the main thing that the separatists want from by separating from the republic is equality, especially for poor people. That was never really addressed in episode 1 or 2. That would kind of been a cool thing to dive deeper in. Have at least a couple of shots showing exactly how the rich are thriving during this time of peace, and the poor people just are just kind of there, and the Senate doesn't care about them.
I see what, yeah, it's kind of just like it feels like the Senate doesn't really do what like a universe you think like a galactic government would do. They kind of just exist because they need to. It's
Yeah,
not really, they don't really do anything.
yeah. Like George Lucas is so good about building the foundations of a world, of a universe. He's just not very good about fleshing out the details at all. Like the Senate and the Jedi Council are really, really cool ideas that, if done well, could work. Just especially the Senate, it just nothing about it makes any sense. And again, maybe that's part of the point, but you could have gone with that even stronger. And again, explain their connection to the Jedi better. Are the Jedi directly like are they like soldiers of the Senate? Are they completely independent? It if we take if we take just from episode 1 and 2, it kind of feels like they're a little bit of both, but like that doesn't really make sense, so whatever. And Palpatine is definitely still a senator of Naboo and becomes chancellor either by the end of episode 1 or between movies. I feel like
Hmm.
that's just a logical progression from of how he becomes emperor later on. Speaking of which, Naboo. I do think there needs to be, a central planet, of course, that the movie takes place on, and Naboo, as we know it, minus Gungans, I feel fits that fairly well.
You're just gonna get rid of all the gun
Yeah,
kittens? Wait a minute.
yeah. You don't need them. You don't need them. Really, Naboo in name only, I guess. Like
Wow.
Naboo in name only. Like
I mean,
you don't need them for the story I'm crafting. You don't need these fish people. That don't make any sense.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, you honestly don't, but I mean, I like a lot of the stuff you like to make it work, especially if you're trying to make it add up to the originals. It
Mhm.
doesn't really need a lot of stuff
Yeah.
that's thrown in there. So I guess you are.
Mhm. So yeah, still have a significant portion of the movie take place on Naboo. Naboo still has a queen, which I'll get to that specifically later. Though Republic, one thing that I feel they could have kind of focused on a little more, the Republic Senate or the Republic, way of thinking has major sway over the Queen's decision. She may technically be the queen of Naboo or of that entire star system, but she's still part of the Republic. She still makes decisions more so in line with the Republic's thinking. She,
Right.
like in this world, the Republic more or less only cares about boosting the economy, for the rich during this time of peace. That's I kind of feel the Queen mainly focuses on, helping people middle class and up, and just kind of leaving the poor people behind. And other maybe even more shady things here and there that kind of build to a specific event I'll get to later. And yeah, like I said, just no Gungans. Of course, Darth Maul. You got to have Darth Maul. Just look at this. Just look at that. You can't not have that.
Mm.
And literally the only thing I can, without a doubt, like unquestionably say the only good thing that I personally feel is good about episode one is Duel of Fates.
Yeah, just the whole fight thing.
Like, I'm not even really saying like the fight itself. Like, I have a problem with even
Just the music?
I even have like some problem with the fight itself. The choreography could have been a little better. Like, there were many times where they're aiming for the lightsaber and not the person itself, and they're
Okay,
blocking.
yeah, this is true.
Just a couple other things here and there that like
Yeah.
it felt very choreographed and not. It felt very staged, I guess, and not like a fight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that.
Um. So of course, keep the dual lightsaber because it's cool. Why not?
Yeah, yes. I feel like he should have used that to his advantage more.
Yeah.
Especially like I feel like at the beginning he shouldn't have used it like started out with. I feel like he should have used one and then like midway through the fight revealed that to dual lightsaber, like mix it up. I feel
Yeah.
like that would have been cooler.
Yeah. Like
Because like, you know,
this is a really cool shot right here. The doors open up, he takes off the hood, boom, boom. But
like that is
that
sick.
you're playing all your cards. Like,
Yeah, like right off the bat. You don't, especially when you're a Sith Lord, it's all about, being mysterious, being, deception, all that stuff.
mhm.
I feel like that would have been a big part of that deception if he just, it's like, oh yeah, it's just right. Especially, I feel like that would have been a good way if Qui-Gon had died that way. Like there would have been no way he would have known.
Exactly, and not dying because the person with the green lightsaber, just kind of ran off on his own, not waiting for Obi-Wan, the one with the blue lightsaber, generally signifying the better fighter of the two. He just kind of runs off on his own, just got himself killed because arrogance. Even though Qui Gon is up until now has seemed to be the wiser of the two, so why it just felt very out of character for Qui Gon to not wait up for Obi Wan, especially after
Hmm.
Qui Gon kicked Maul off that platform. It didn't just jump straight down. He didn't wait for Obi Wan to meet up with him or anything. He just died because reasons, I guess. But yeah, I
Because
like your thought of having the dual lightsaber come out and then like taking Qui Gon out, by surprise. That makes a lot more
right.
sense. And one aspect that I think uh, I think Phantom Menace could have definitely benefited from is have Maul be more of a presence throughout the movie, but still be more or less a secret. Like, you don't even have to show what he's doing the whole time. Just kind of, if you're paying attention, the audience kind of picks up that he's there. Because the Sith have been in hiding for thousands of years. The Jedi don't know that they exist. So essentially, have him be more of a Phantom Menace, if you will. And one way in particular that I'm picturing is once Obi Wan and Yoda get on Naboo, um, after like a day or two of them being on Naboo, there's there's at least rumors of a guy with a lightsaber going around killing people at night, and people are starting to think, hey, the Jedi just showed up. Someone with a lightsaber is killing all these innocent poor people, and then they start kind of not liking that the Jedi are really there anymore. They start having second thoughts about being a part of the Republic as a whole if the Jedi seemingly were only sent there to kill these people, whereas the whole time it was actually Maul going around at night killing people with maybe a lightsaber he stole from some other Jedi. And then at some point, Obi Wan or even Yoda or someone else like confronts him at least once, and then Maul like gets away. Maybe he doesn't even like use his force powers or anything, so no one like knows. They don't realize that he's a Sith yet, or there's many ways you could go with it, but I
Right.
feel even just adding that little part would really signify, hey, this guy is the Phantom Menace, if that is who you want to be the Phantom Menace, I guess. Yeah. So before I move on to to straight up change, do you have any questions so far?
Um, Not so much questions. I had a comment I was gonna say, and I think I just forgot it, and I'm a little disappointed that I did. But okay. Things to change. Actually, this might actually. I'm gonna wait till after because this might be covered in this segment. I'm not sure,
Okay.
so I'll wait till after. We can go ahead.
So here's where I'm gonna start getting into the actual story structure of my Star Wars Episode One movie. So Yoda and Obi-Wan, these two from Episode Five. The quote is Yoda, the Jedi Master who instructed me. Now, technically speaking, that could be interpreted as, oh, Yoda actually trains every single Padawan until a certain age, and then they go and find a master. Therefore, Yoda did in fact instruct Obi-Wan, so it's not a plot hole. But that's not what he meant. That's just straight up not what he meant, and you guys know it.
Yeah, yeah,
Have Yoda and Obi-Wan be master and apprentice, or master and pupil, whatever, Padawan, whatever you want to say.
yeah. That's
Like,
what I was gonna say.
just do it. Like, these are the two most recognizable Jedi in existence, especially up until that point. But even still, Obi Wan and Yoda are still probably the two most iconic Jedi outside of Luke. And you just waste Yoda in the first movie. He barely has a presence. Instead, you insert Qui Gon, who doesn't really need to be in the movie, at least in the form he's in it. Just that, I don't like that at all.
No,
So here's one change that I
like
think.
on like. Oh,
Go,
sorry.
go, no, go, go.
No, I was just gonna say, like, didn't need to exist. Like I like Liam Neeson, but I mean, I feel like there was no reason for Qui-Gon to exist here, just to make a character, pretty much.
Yeah, like I
It
love
was
Liam Neeson,
unnecessary.
just when he's actually able to act. In episode
Right.
one, no one was able to act, not even Samuel L. Flippin' Jackson. So, yeah, one one change that I feel might be a bit controversial, but I think it would work if done right. So Yoda and Obi Wan have actually been Master and Padawan for, or at least partners for a while, like many years. Obi Wan is actually pretty old at this point, old enough so that by the end of Episode Three, it would make sense that 19, 20 years later, he's Alec Guinness aged up.
Right.
Um, and essentially, the way I'm thinking is, especially during this time of peace where there's still, space pirates, and there's still people doing kind of bad things, but not like there's no need to like hardcore train people. It's not really necessary to have a Jedi a Jedi always go from Padawan straight to Master. You can still have Jedi and Padawan be partners for a while after, even though the Padawan is technically ready to take on another Padawan. So if there are no Padawans available, or if they just or if they just don't want to, not be partnered with the person anymore, they can still stick together. I feel like that
Hmm.
kind of dichotomy makes a lot of sense. And
I
also,
agree.
Yoda can still be CG. I don't care. Still have a lightsaber. Some people don't really like him having a lightsaber. I think maybe don't have him
What?
have the lightsaber yet in this movie, but I think it's kind of a natural next step of, Yoda is the most iconic, one of the most iconic Jedi. He should have a lightsaber at some point. I just feel like that just kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't he have a light? I mean, he is a Jedi. Why
Yeah,
wouldn't he have a lightsaber? I mean,
especially
that's the
since he
thing.
trains all these other Padawans and Obi Wan
Especially, yeah.
to be one of the most skilled Jedi. Period.
Exactly.
Should probably have a lightsaber.
Right.
Yeah. So one thing that just really bugged me about Episode One is just the way the Jedi were introduced. They just turned around, took off their hoods, Obi-Wan said, "I have a bad feeling about this." That was literally how the Jedi were introduced to us in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
No build up. It wasn't even they weren't even introduced in an action scene. Just turn around, here they are, iconic line, boom, there you go. Just oh, that's so bad. And things like that happen throughout the entire movie. Like when Obi-Wan and Anakin first meet. It's just, hi, I'm Obi-Wan, I'm Anakin, boom, they're just that's not how you introduce the two, core characters for this franchise. That's just oh, it's
Right.
so bad.
All right. Question really quick. What
Yep.
slide do you have up right now?
Slide.
Yeah. Is it still the Obi-Wan and Yoda one, or is it a different one?
Obi-Wan Yoda, yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, I was just making sure.
Yeah. Um,
Sorry.
so essentially, what I'm getting at is how I personally would introduce your first instance of seeing a Jedi in these movies. Yoda and Obi-Wan, or essentially how the movie opens, kind of pans down to a planet. It doesn't matter what planet, preferably not even Naboo, because I've planned for that later. Um, it pans down to a planet. This planet is currently being, or at least a city in this planet is currently being taken over by space pirates. And, these space pirates are keeping food from people. They're, maybe like systematically killing off people. Maybe there's, a slight rebellion here or there, but like they're just killing everyone that tries to go against them. And then, kind of while this is all happening, you kind of see pirates every now and again just kind of like being taken into the shadows, or just kind of like just fall over, or just like being taken out every now and again. And then it kind of gets to the point where maybe the head pirate kind of notices and tells two captains to go look, to go find out what's happening. They see a pirate get like taken away. They run after him, and they just see Yoda kind of in an alley, like doing like, oh, no, don't hurt me, I mean no harm. And then they're like, what, huh? And then it's like, behind you, you should look. And then Obi-Wan like defeats them, and then they both
Nice.
go and then they both like go and take out or like chase away, or at least the head pirate, and save the town. I feel like just a quick, straight to the point action sequence that shows how good of a swordsman, or of how of a good of a fighter Obi-Wan is. It still keeps Yoda's personality in check. You don't even really need to have Yoda doing much. This if you are going with the puppet route, that you don't need him to be CG for that scene. Um, and
Hmm.
it just shows the Jedi in their natural habitat, at least as far as this movie goes. And I feel that's a much better way to introduce the Jedi than how they did it in the base movie. So
Agree. I like that.
yeah, and again, it also just kind of makes this world feel like it's always like something's always happening, but not necessarily on a galactic level. These are just thugs, just space pirates they're fighting. Like it kind of makes you feel, the Jedi don't even really have anything better to do than just fight space pirates, because that's really all their threat to the galaxy right now.
Right.
Yeah. So next, Anakin, this little kid. Preferably don't be played by
Oh
Jake Lloyd.
boy.
I mean, I get he's a child actor. He was only 10, but like you maybe couldn't have picked a worse child actor to play this iconic character. But whatever. If he has to be played by Jake Lloyd, whatever. It's fine, whatever. So Anakin Skywalker. Anakin actually lives on Naboo, and essentially, uh, the next sequence after they take on the space pirates, Anakin and Yoda get on their ship and start flying back to Coruscant. And then maybe they have like a short conversation with someone from the Jedi Council, asking if someone else needs help, or just reporting in. and then they realize, oh, we're running out of fuel, or like one of the ship's parts is missing or damaged or something, so they have to land on a nearby planet, which is Naboo. There, they meet Anakin, who he's maybe a bit of a rebel, but he's still kind-hearted. Potentially, his family is like sick or in trouble in some way, and he uses, he does what he can to help them, kind of like a Robin Hood esque situation, where like
Hmm.
maybe Obi-Wan or Yoda like sees them maybe like stealing from someone, or like knocking someone over or something to steal money from them, and trying to like reprimand him for that, only to realize he needed these supplies to help his family. Um, yeah, I'll go ahead and say that C3PO is still his creation. I actually really do like that aspect. It shows that this kid there's something it shows that there's something special about this kid without outright, necessarily using his force powers to do it. He's creative, he's intuitive, he's
Right.
just good with stuff like that. And also, I do think that this scene, or C3PO being his creation, actually makes one scene from episode 5 make more sense. Like in episode 5, I think it was right after or right before Han Solo went into the cryo chamber. Chewbacca like started fighting off stormtroopers, and Boba Fett was about to shoot, but Darth Vader like put his hand on him, like, no, don't shoot. Theoretically, that scene could signify, hey, Chewbacca has 3PO on his back right now.
Yeah.
Don't kill my creation. Like, without 3PO being his creation, there's no real reason for Darth Vader to stop him from doing that, outside of Chewbacca's the main character. We don't want him dead, basically.
Yeah, I can see that. I remember that scene.
Yep. Um, so once Obi-Wan and Yoda, you meet Anakin, and maybe they fall back to his house. They need to stay there for a night or two, just to just to relax, just to get all the parts they need, just to get their ship fueled up or whatever. And there they find out that Anakin, he knows there's something special about him. Maybe he even knows he has force powers, but he can't really control them. Maybe he has like bad dreams, and whenever he gets upset or scared or something, like, I know it's kind of cliche, but it's fine.
Hmm.
He's a really powerfully talented young kid. He can't control his powers.
Yeah. Yeah, like
So
super raw but powerful.
yeah, like if you get scared, like maybe people around him start choking, like things start cracking and breaking. Like I feel that I feel like that makes a lot of sense. Um, and also there will be more of a reason for him to actually want to go and train with the Jedi, because you know he
Hmm.
thinks he's crazy. Everyone in the town doesn't like him because he's like this, and the Jedi understand, so they're gonna take him with them. And one aspect that has just always infuriated me, ever even as a kid, like as the moment I understood, hey, you know what's stupid? The Force is actually his literal father. Don't have Anakin Skywalker be Jesus. It's just, oh, it's
Wrong.
just stupid. It's just wrong on so many levels. Like, it's one thing to have the father die off screen. That, is a very easy Disney cliche to do, but still it worked for a
Hmm.
reason. Have the families die in some terrible accident, or maybe the dad fought some war, or like had died in
Right.
some
Make it
rebellion or whatever.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. But no,
When
George
it's
Lucas decided, you know what? This kid isn't special enough. He needs to be Jesus.
yeah.
No, don't do it.
It's like why?
I'm
Why?
I'm fine with him being the chosen one, although I didn't put this anywhere here, but just don't have a stupid prophecy. This movie doesn't this I just something in general I don't like about franchises in general. Like even Harry Potter, like what's the purpose of a prophecy? They they don't really give you any new information. They're always about the main character who was going to stop the bad guy anyway. They're even when they're subverted, they're not even really done well. So, and plus we already knew what Darth Vader did or Anakin, whatever, did at the end of Episode 6 anyway. So there's no reason to make his journey a prophetic journey. That just I don't know. Maybe there is maybe there is some idea of the Jedi have been looking for this quote unquote savior or whatever throughout their entire life or the entire lifetime of the Jedi to fill the prophecy. Um, so they're in like the entire quote unquote religion has kind of been founded on that for a while. Could kind of go that aspect, but I don't I don't know, especially during this time of peace where the Sith haven't been around for a while. There's no need for a prophecy. If the Sith, were actually still around, and there were more than two of them, then I could understand the Jedi needing some kind of savior character to come in and actually literally bring whatever the Jedi call balance to the Force. But
Right.
in this particular story, it's not really necessary. Or maybe they don't bring it up until episode 2 if you need to have something like this. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I get it. Also, and it's like, yeah, the prophecy thing's a little, yeah, I mean, it's kind of just stale in general because it happens all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I mean, like, kind of like you said, it's just not necessary. You don't have to be, the chosen one. Like, you can just be really good. Like, you don't have to be, special or anything to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
So good, like, oh, the father said, like this person would come and be the smartest person. Like, no, I'm just smart, like I'm just good at what I do. So like
Yeah.
that's all you need. You
Yeah.
don't have to be mystically, gifted or whatever. You're
Yeah.
just good.
The Force just so happens to be strong with this kid. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that.
that's all you need, pretty much.
Next, Padme.
Oof,
So she's still in the movie. Because her character obviously needs to exist in order for Luke and Leia to exist.
this is true.
But instead of being the queen, Padme is the queen's daughter.
I like that.
I never really put it together just how ridiculously stupid the idea of Padme having like a dummy, person being the quote unquote queen while she pretended to be a handmaid servant person until the last time I saw it. Like, why is that necessary? Why in a system where, like I said, at least even in episode 1 and 2, or like especially episode 1, it's more or less peacetime as far as we can tell. So why exactly does the queen need this other person to be in her place sometimes? And also, let's just say the palace did get taken over. A common tactic for situations like that, if the queen doesn't want to sign a treaty or if the queen doesn't want to give over useful information or whatever, a common tactic is to start killing uh, bodyguards and handmaidens. If the actual queen is pretending to be a handmaiden, she might be the target of a
Yeah,
torture or whatever.
evil. Yeah, interesting.
And it'd be super dumb for for him to be like, no, no, stop, stop, I'm the real queen, and then he wouldn't even believe you and shoot you anyway. So like, just all that never made sense to me. And also, there were so many times throughout episode 1 where if the queen had just told Qui Gon and Obi Wan and everyone else that, oh, Padme is the real queen, a lot of stuff just kind of wouldn't happen the way it would. Like, why on earth
Right.
would the queen herself go out into the desert of Tatooine, where it has literally been described on multiple occasions as a hive of scum and villainy?
Villainy.
Like, there's no reason for the queen, one of the most important, like the most important person on that ship, there's no reason for the queen to be out in that desert right now.
Right.
And also, when once it's revealed that she's the queen, nothing really changed. There's you easily could have had her explain, "Oh, I'm the queen. I'm the real queen. She's just my dummy person," or can't think of the name right now, but like decoy. She's the decoy.
Yeah.
If she had just told the Jedi when they first left Naboo, nothing about the movie would have really changed. Like, if the queen did want to go on Tatooine, then they couldn't really say no because she's the queen, and that's her decision to make. Nothing would have changed. So there's like it would have made sense, on Naboo, since they knew an attack was coming. That made sense. But from what we could tell, she's had this decoy for some time, so there's no need for that. So basically, what I'm getting at is have Padme, and also, okay, well, also, one more thing. The Padme that's in episode one is apparently supposed to be only 14, but Natalie Portman was like 18-ish at the time, I think. And she did not look
Yeah.
14. I don't believe that for a
No, she
second.
did not. Nope. It looked very creepy. Little kid. I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh,
Like,
that's
Anakin
kind
just
of
falls in love with this queen, royalty, who theoretically is only supposed to marry other royalty or adequate suitors, and all of a sudden, because he got taller in the next movie, she she agrees to marry him. Like, that just
yeah,
doesn't make
yeah.
sense. So yeah, make Padme the queen's daughter. Make her about 10 years old. R2D2,
Oh,
I feel, as a natural way to kind of introduce him into the franchise, but not make him not shoehorn him in like they did in episode one, where the only reason he exists in that movie is because he just so happened to not die like every other droid in that area. He didn't do anything special. He just so happened to not get hit. So having R2D2 be like the personal droid of the royal family,
right.
maybe even being like Padme's personal droid, I feel like that's a more natural way to introduce him without making him like super duper special in the way they did for some reason, I guess. Yeah. And next, since Anakin lives maybe even in the palace city, Padme knows who he is, or at least she's heard about him. She's heard about his, immense power and just kind of generally who he is. But she doesn't really interact with him all that much. Maybe Anakin actually does have a crush on her, mostly because she's royalty, but they
Right.
don't really interact
Princess.
outside of a couple of times. And then once in episode two, which we'll probably get to later down the line, they actually start forming more so like a relationship. So yeah.
That makes more sense just because, like, it's like he was what, like 9 or 10, and like she looks 18, even though she's
Mm-hmm.
not. So it's like they should have no, and like this should be like no anything
Yeah, no.
at all.
No,
And
no,
it's weird.
no.
Ooh,
Okay.
that's illegal.
Yeah, yeah, no. Like, that bothered me for like even as a kid. That always bothered me.
Hmm.
Next, Count Dooku needs to
Count
be
Dooku,
in
yeah,
episode one.
he needs to be a Jedi. Yeah,
I wasn't even going with that. He doesn't even need to be a
really,
Jedi,
just as
actually.
a bad guy, or
Well,
just like as a count or whatever, or
as
just
a
like the
count
ruler of
of
the planet.
something. Literally, okay, what is he the count of?
I some planet that I don't know the name of.
Exactly. What better way to introduce Count Dooku, which, by the way, Count is, I actually looked it up in research for this video. Count is essentially like an intermediary level between uh, servant and crap, Lord, I think. It's like it's somewhere in between there. Like you're still technically royalty, but you're not like you don't really have any. Okay, so you're technically royalty and you have like some sway, but you're not like part of the royal family. You're not like there all the
Interesting.
time, I guess. So yes, have him be the count of Naboo. Boom, or at least a count. That just makes perfect sense.
Power. For
That also gives him a direct line to Palpatine.
Dang.
Have Palpatine know who he is since
Okay.
he's the senator. He can
You think like
manipulate. He's
count?
been manipulating him for some time. I did kind of like the idea in episode 2 of Count Dooku being a former Jedi, but at the same time, my main issue with him was that where did he come from? At what point did he stop? What did he stop being a Jedi? Was it after episode 1? Has he been bad for a while now? How long after Darth Maul's death did Palpatine know about him? So having Naboo, be common factor between both Palpatine and Dooku, I feel makes a lot of sense. And maybe Palpatine kind of sees some innate potential in Dooku, and this also gives Palpatine more of a reason to want to send Maul to Naboo in the first place. He doesn't even maybe Palpatine doesn't even like need Maul anymore, or he thinks or he fears Maul might try to kill him, so he sends him there to die and then have Count Dooku become his new apprentice.
I like it.
Yeah. And another thing that just really bugged me about, especially episode 2, it never it never explained exactly what the Confederacy was or what the separatists wanted to do or why Count Dooku was so important or just any of this. So, I feel it makes a lot of sense that because Count Dooku is kind of in an intermediary uh, point between the higher ups and the people, he could be a he could essentially sway the people to start a civil war on Naboo, especially after they start losing trust in the Jedi, essentially starting the separatist confederacy on Naboo through that civil war.
That could like lead to like other world. I said countries, but I was like, yeah, other worlds following suit, and like that could kind of you could see the Confederacy kind of starting up there.
Mm-hmm. And yes, especially since this whole Confederacy separatist thing is supposed to be more or less an allegory to the United States Civil War.
Right.
One very, very important aspect of that war that people don't really talk about all that much is the fact that America just assumed that we would win in the first battle. People were like setting up picnics on the
Yeah.
side of on the hill at
Hmm.
the Battle of Bull Run. I think is the first
Yeah.
battle. They
It
didn't.
was
The
something
U.S.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the Union did not send their A game to that first fight. They were just like, "Oh, we're gonna win this. They're just Southerners. We'll crush them." And if the Southerners had had a better leader, this country would be very, very different because that first battle took place like a few miles from DC. So if they had
Right.
rushed DC, the capital, we would have lost. So just
That would have been bad.
yeah, yeah. So that one little aspect of it actually in a lot of civil wars like this, the 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 government in charge just kind of assumes it's a small insurrection that they could easily squash. So that could lead into the idea of, oh, only the poor people of Naboo and like maybe a couple of nobles here and there are rising up on Naboo, and the Senate, and even though Obi-Wan and even the Queen go to Coruscant to be like, hey, we think we think something's gonna happen. Like a couple of our cities have already been taken over or straight up destroyed by Count Dooku and and his goons. We need some help. The Senate's like, what? Like this is pitiful. Like why can you not stop this? Like you're the queen. You have your
Hmm.
own royal army. You can stop this by yourself. We don't need to intervene. Leading to this war expanding even further. And one thing that helps Count Dooku throughout this of the war is he actually offers to fund the development of a droid army to expedite the war, which solves a lot of problems with the droids. Which, speaking of the droids, now these droids are literally a microcosm of everything wrong with Episode 1 and the prequels as a whole. This next
Really?
section, I'm not even really gonna be fixing anything. I'm just gonna issue a bunch of questions, and you can answer one or any of these questions that as you feel you can answer. Okay, so
Okay.
answer these questions. Who makes them? Who controls them? Why does the Senate allow them to exist? What is their connection to the Trade Federation? What exactly does the Trade Federation do? Why do they miss if they're droids? Why do they die when they get knocked over? Why are there any droids other than the Droidicons, which seem superior in every single way?
Oh my
So,
gosh.
answer any or all of those questions for me, please.
Okay, so they're made. Okay, aren't they made by the like Techno Union or something like that?
What
Or like
connection do
I
they
think
have to the Trade Federation? Why does the
yeah,
Trade
yeah, yeah,
Federation?
yeah. I don't know. I don't. It's not explained. I
Who
know. I'm
exactly
sure there's
control?
some. I'm sure there's like some book that's no longer canon that explains it. But I
Probably, yeah.
mean, but
Why?
I
My
mean,
biggest question is
yeah,
why would the Senate allow these droids
yeah,
to be made in the first place?
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they're just kind of there. I think it was like originally made for like protection for the Trade Federation, but they used that as a cover just to make an army
Okay.
somehow, and it somehow just kind of like wasn't smart enough to pick up
I guess
on that.
since the Trade Federation has lobbyists in the Senate,
Yeah,
or straight up has representation in the Senate, I guess, but
yeah,
explain that better. In episode
yeah,
one, they just start blockading Naboo for no reason, really. And then all of a
because
sudden they just have a giant army of droids. And
yeah,
also
they just
the
show up.
Jedi just kind of like battle droids. Like it's just a normal thing that just happens all the time on different planets. Like
Yeah,
clearly this is not this is a
the-
common occurrence. So
yeah, it's
why
not the first time you've seen the droids.
so why has the Senate not done anything about it? I
Yeah,
So if Count Dooku specifically goes out of his way, maybe even like maybe he's been planning this for some time and just kind of hiding it from the Queen. He's been planning this for some time, like paying the right people to make him a personal battle droid army that's actually efficient. They don't miss. You think a droid army would have targeting
yeah, that
devices.
should
They
be
wouldn't just
better.
die if they got knocked over. That's always
Yeah,
bugged me.
I never understood that. They just force push and they're just gone.
Mm-hmm.
I never like maybe they force pushed an off button, but like why would a droid have an
But
off button?
yeah,
But
I don't know. Yeah, I feel just including Count Dooku into this movie just fixes so much, especially when it comes to the droids.
just explain it better because I mean there's a bunch because I mean you could honestly say the same thing about the clones. You don't really I mean it's kind of explained, but you don't really know where they come from either, sort of. I
Yeah.
mean, they come from Camino, but it's like, oh yeah, I guess
Like,
Count Dooku fake ordered the
did he?
creation of the. I don't
Did he?
like it's. That's what I'm
Or
saying.
was
Like,
it or was it Sidious?
they
We don't know.
they're like it's not really it's kind of poorly explained to the point where it doesn't make any sense and I go with it.
Yeah, but
Yeah, and it just it's
whatever. So, next up, Qui-Gon. Now,
mm,
I actually think that Qui-Gon he does serve a purpose in this story. Just obviously not the what they gave him in episode 1. So, Qui-Gon has been friends with Obi-Wan for a long time. Maybe, definitely not as master. Maybe they trained together for like a little while, but they're not
yeah,
master and Padawan like they were in the real episode 1.
right,
And after Obi-Wan and Yoda and the Queen go to plead to the Senate and even to the Jedi Council to help, no one in the Senate, no one in the Jedi Council agrees to help the Queen and come back with them. Um, Mainly because the Jedi actually are so strongly linked to the Senate, they can't help, or maybe they're just again so arrogant that they're just like, you don't even need our help.
right,
Even after Obi-Wan says, I think there might be a Sith Lord on that planet. They're like that's impossible.
right,
You know, we haven't we haven't picked up any signs. They've been dead for thousands of years. Like that's impossible. Therefore, we can't help you. Obi or Qui-Gon is like, I've known you for a long time. You're not a liar. Like I actually believe this needs to be looked into, and especially if Obi-Wan tells them, there's this boy with incredible power, um, Qui-Gon could be like, maybe I've been looking for an apprentice or Padawan or whatever. I think I could help him, harness his strength, harness his force power. And then Qui-Gon goes with Obi-Wan and the Queen back to basically to the final battle.
right.
Speaking of which, this scene right here, as much as I love this song, this sequence at the end of the movie cannot happen because the good guys do not win this battle. The Naboo Civil War ends with the Confederacy winning. I feel that is the only logical way for the separatists' mindset to spread throughout the galaxy in the way it does. In order for episode 2 to start to hit the ground running with already, maybe even deep in the war, or um or at least it's the effects of this battle, being felt. Maybe the separatist like Confederacy doesn't spread throughout the entire galaxy at first. Maybe the Senate is able to quell some of it, but by the end of the first act of episode 1, a lot of act I feel like you need to be deep into, oh, this is who the separatists are. This is where all the major battles are happening and or are going to happen. In order for that to happen, Count Dooku needs to win this first fight. And Naboo gets completely taken over by Dooku and his droids because the Queen, yeah, she does have an army. There are the Jedi there to help, but Yoda can only do so much. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are there fighting off Darth Maul, so they can't do a whole lot after a certain point, and they just get completely overwhelmed. And there can maybe be like a space battle happening, like kind of like in Episode 7, where it's like a low,
Hmm.
like a dogfight basically in the sky, kind of happening
Yeah.
over the palace city. There are going to be some deaths, in this
Oh,
battle. Obviously, Qui-Gon and Darth Maul, they both have to die in order for, later movies to happen.
okay.
Um, Also, Naboo Queen, she dead.
That makes
Maybe
sense.
even like Count Dooku finally reveals that, he was the one behind it the whole time and just chokes her or what or something or like the palace gets blown up or something. There's many ways to go about doing this. But of course, Padme gets out fine. Um,
Okay.
Anakin's family, mom, whoever is left, they're all dead. Um, Sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. And this also gives him actually kind of a reason to hate Count Dooku because in
Hmm.
episode two, like I said, Count Dooku's just a guy that shows up. He has
Yeah.
no weight to him. There's no weight behind this guy cutting off Anakin's arm. If this is the guy who essentially was responsible for killing your family, especially your mom, I feel at the end of episode two when Anakin actually confronts him out of anger, or maybe he's like, or maybe he finds out that Count Dooku was the one behind it, and he like follows him throughout the entirety of episode two, finally confronting him and losing that fight. I feel that just makes that moment that much stronger. And then episode three, when he finally takes him
Right.
down,
It's more
it's the completion. Yeah,
satisfying.
completion of that arc, and essentially the completion of the end of him being a Jedi and the start of the turn of the dark side. Like you finally killed,
Hmm.
you finally got revenge, and you can't really come back from that. And then Obi-Wan, Yoda, Anakin, and Padme get away in order for future movies to happen. So, any questions?
I feel like I'm in a lecture right now. But no, okay. So one question I will kind of bring. Okay, so you know how like it's mentioned that there's 10,000 Jedi Knights and all that.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like I always felt like that was kind of unnecessary. Like I knew there needed to be a lot, but I never thought it
Mm-hmm.
needed to be nearly that many. It kind of makes like I know there's billions of people in the galaxies, but I mean it kind of cheapens the whole Jedi thing.
Yeah, like I could even see because one problem I do have with especially episode three is that Anakin kind of gets jaded on the whole Jedi outlook of things, and I could ease and kind of a problem with that is that the audience didn't really get a real idea of the things they were doing wrong. So kind of
Right.
getting into that, maybe there are so many Jedi because every single person they find who is even slightly force sensitive, they just spring onto. They just cling to
Yeah.
that and be like, "You will be a Jedi." The only reason they don't help Anakin is because,
Put them in a row, give them my lightsaber.
yeah, maybe the only reason they don't help Anakin is because the Civil War is happening. Uh, the Senate won't allow them to go help. Um, so yeah, every single person who could just like pick up a little pebble and that's it. They're like, you have potential to be a Jedi. Let me train you. Even if you're not going to be good, you'll still be a Jedi. You'll still spread the quote unquote religion of the Jedi through the future. So yeah,
Right.
I feel like that could kind of go along with everything bad that Anakin eventually sees in the Jedi. And also
I
going
like
into
it.
that, that could also um, maybe during halfway through episode two or even like sometime in episode three, Anakin realizes the Jedi could have been there, to help my family not die at Naboo, and they just didn't do anything about it. That I feel like that could also help his turn to the dark side be even stronger.
Right. And when he talks about the light, in a sense, because we have I feel like a lot of times when he was talking about stuff, he's like, we don't really know what he's talking about when he's
Yeah.
like the Jedi are corrupt, and I'm like, he's not really.
In my point
Like,
of
what are you
view, the
talking about?
Jedi are evil. Like, why? The audience was never shown or told anything.
Yeah, Yeah, it's like they didn't really do anything. They kind
Yeah.
of, I mean, they weren't great at their job, but they didn't do anything wrong.
Mm. Okay. Any more general questions?
Um, what was I gonna say? Like, okay, so like when you explain that when Count Dooku like reveals to the Queen or whatever, he's like, "Oh, it was actually my idea to have the droids all along. I started this war." Is he gonna like reveal he's also a Sith Lord then, or is that more like a second movie thing?
So in this movie, I don't think he's gonna reveal. I don't even really think that he knows that he himself has force, or like is that in tune with the dark side. Maybe
Hmm.
Palpatine has told him he has potential, but he has never like really tried or learned anything. Although after Maul dies, because Sidious basically told him to go die, Sidious will come to Dooku at the end of Episode One and be like, "I can train you to be my new apprentice," or something like that. Or I mean, I
Okay.
guess it could work to have Dooku like should have force choke the Queen at the end.
Yeah, that could kind of be the shocking reveal. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. Like it. There are definitely different ways you could go about doing it. Just whatever makes the story most cohesive,
Hmm.
which is something the prequels lack. So just whatever you think makes the most sense.
Hmm. Let's see.
Any questions about like the story itself? Anything you think I left out, or
Um,
any
it
like plot threads that you think need to be fleshed out? Any?
I mean, you pretty much rewrote it, so it doesn't see. I don't see any major plot holes because a lot of stuff that like wasn't mentioned just doesn't need to exist.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I don't. I mean, in terms of it, sounds pretty straightforward. It's pretty much all going to take place on Naboo. It's pretty, it's pretty straightforward. It's like I mean, maybe there'll be some parts where like public persuasion on Naboo starts
Mm-hmm.
turning against not just the Jedi, but like the royal family or whatever,
Yeah.
because they're supporting the
Yep.
Jedi and like they want him out. Dooku as kind of like the whole see Count Dooku as a good guy because he's helping getting rid of the royal
Mm-hmm.
family. That's the whole point. Like the people turn good guys is a good aspect of something.
Yeah.
Especially like good bad guys turn the good guys against the people.
Mm-hmm. So, like
That's
everything
how
with
you
Maul, you think makes sense?
right. Because like I think so. I think that Darth Maul. I think he should show up earlier in the movie, kind of like how the way you're writing. I feel like he would show up before like the very end and kind of be real. I feel like he'd be earlier and like Qui-Gon. Okay, so like with the way you have it set up, you have Yoda, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan. Are they all three going to be fighting him, or like is Yoda going to be doing something else, or
So
like?
essentially, how I imagine the final battle happening, it takes place more or less in the Palace City. Um,
Okay.
because we haven't really had a Star Wars battle that takes place in a city. I think that would just be a pretty cool environment to have,
Mm-hmm.
stuff happening in. Uh, it'll essentially start with all three of them in the city fighting off droids. Yoda might have a lightsaber, might not. He might just be, forcing stuff away, just being really impressive with his force powers,
Mm-hmm.
or just jumping here and they're like ripping off, like ripping out cords and just doing Yoda things. And then um, maybe if they are all together, they get separated somehow, and then Yoda goes off to fight his own little battle. And then once they get separated, Maul shows up. So the fate starts, and they start fighting him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
And then
I
just
just
to
wanted
kind
to
of
clarify
just
because I was like,
yeah,
there's three of them. It's like, man, that's like it's gonna be okay.
yeah, just those two fighting him, and just kind of to uh, round it out. Essentially, of course, Obi-Wan eventually kills Maul. Yoda might win his little battle. It might. my in my mind, it kind of feels like it makes the most sense to have every single little battle win with the good guys winning, and then at the very end, the palace just blows up,
Yeah,
or like a bomb raid comes in and just destroys everything, just out of
yeah, like
nowhere.
they win the battles but lose the war, kind
Yeah,
of. Yeah,
yeah.
good idea. I like that idea.
Mm.
Hmm. Hmm. But I do have one more question.
Okay,
No pod race? No, I'm just
no pod race.
kidding.
That pod race scene is good for like 2 minutes, and then it gets boring and bad.
But then we wouldn't have the pod racing Lego Star Wars level. Ugh,
Sad.
disappointment. I'm
Oh well.
totally kidding, but no, no, please.
We won't have those
That
annoying
level annoys.
announcers either.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started. But okay, but what about okay, so is there gonna be any I feel like this movie is gonna be a lot less centered on Anakin, which isn't a bad thing.
Hmm.
I'm just saying I feel like because I feel like there it's gonna compensate later for more centered on him, which is good.
Yeah.
But I do still feel like there might be more on him just because it is basically the trilogy basically is about him.
Yeah. Um, I kind of thought about that. Like, I guess my mindset is it's more important to set up the world Anakin comes into as opposed to setting up Anakin himself.
Okay, that makes sense. Just two more movies, he's gonna grow drastically.
Yeah. Yeah. And like most of the second act, I feel will be either Yoda or Obi-Wan interacting with him and his family, like understanding his powers more. Maybe they even take him with them to Coruscant just to like show the council what he can do. I don't. I'm
Mhm.
not sure about that part, but there there will be enough time spent on him for it to be Anakin's trilogy, but as far as the trilogy as a whole, in order for the trilogy as a whole to make sense, I think pretty much everything I said needs not doesn't need to be more important, but everything I said needs to be there, even if it means sacrificing a little bit of Anakin time.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think that's fair because, I mean, like I said before, there's plenty more time to develop Anakin, and like developing Anakin as a kid isn't that important because he's gonna go through a process that's like changes him anyway.
Yeah,
So it would make no sense to try to develop a process and then have that person, be changed by the death of his parents. It's like trying to develop young but matter because who he becomes after is the
mm-hmm.
character what really matters.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, child actors are never good anyway, so unless you get just the best child actor to ever exist, you might not want to focus on them too much.
But yeah, I like it. I like the Star Wars story. I think I think it gets the point across because like you got to take it from a perspective of okay, we know how the three movies after it go, so
Mm-hmm.
how would you start going with it again? And I think it does a good job with that.
Yeah, don't create plot holes that need to be explained through other books and shows and other stuff outside of the movies. Like that's always bugged me.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you like?
Other than that, I think so.
Is there
I
anything that you would want to
no.
add to the story to make it that much stronger? Do you think?
Um, maybe. Hmm. I don't know. Like overall, I think that it does everything that the first movie needs to do. It
Mm-hmm.
establishes the kind of world we live in. It establishes, different how the government system works, despite how the different system works, who the Jedi are, what the Jedi do. It establishes how they recruit new people, basically. Like it pretty much does everything needs to. I mean, it's pretty much just a long movie of exposition with a little bit of action, with action thrown in, and some suspense. Like, I mean, that's what a first movie in a series is supposed to do. So I feel
Yeah.
like nothing really needs to be added. I feel like it's a good call.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Good job.
And with that,